Welcome to the Online Trainer Show, where we help fitness and nutrition pros take better care of their clients and build profitable businesses. I'm Jonathan Goodman, and as always, I'm joined by Amber Reynolds. We're happy you're here. Let's start the show.
We're talking about perfect pricing. The only reason why I say perfect is because they both start with P, and I like alliteration. The tailor took the train to Toronto.
I was thinking you were telling a story about your friend in the gym. His name started with an M. I can't remember.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Earlier in one of the earlier episodes, you're talking about your friend that works at the gym, and then starts with an M.
Man.
Yeah, I was thinking he sounds like a superhero because he has a name that has alliteration. It's awesome.
Mr. Manny Masudi, the majestic Mr. Manny Masudi. Major Manny.
He needs a comic.
He does need a comic. He is a bit of a superhero. The question we're answering is, what should your package prices be? And there's kind of two parts to this that we're going to hit on for this episode. We're going to talk about philosophy a little first. Amber's going to hit on money and how we think about money and how it can affect our approach to pricing in positive or negative ways. But, you know, money is one of these things that, unfortunately, we're not taught enough about in school. And a lot of us have pretty deep-seated, deep-rooted issues with money that are very important to kind of talk about. And then I'm going to talk more about the technicalities of how to figure out your pricing. And what I'm going to talk about is the path to your pricing, you know, where you start versus where you want to go and how to actually navigate that path. Because when it comes to pricing, it's one thing to just say, oh, you should charge more. It's like, well, there's actually a process that we walk people through there. And it's important not to get ahead of yourselves. So we're going to get to that, more of the technicalities of it, but Amber's going to start first talking a little bit about kind of how to think about this, you know, how we think about thinking about this at the beginning.
Yeah, so I love talking to students about this because we all grow up with a weird relationship with money in some way, shape, or form. You know, how we grew up and how our families dealt with money informs us on how we treat it as adults. And so it's always really interesting to see how everyone approaches money. And limiting beliefs around money is probably beyond the scope of today's episode. But what I do want to talk about is not shopping out of your own pocket, right? Because we understand the fitness industry, right? And so we may not value paying someone, you know, for this service because we already understand it. Like, this is our unconscious.
Yes.
This is the skill that we have earned and have worked for, and we no longer value the same way as
not a pain for us.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so when I say shopping out of our own pocket, you may not be willing to pay for it. It doesn't mean other people aren't willing to pay for it. And so the very first thing I want you to do is to not look at it from, well, would I be willing to pay for this? You have to understand the value that it provides to others and understand that it is valuable to them. Like, I pay, I think $165 like every 6 weeks for someone to color and cut my hair. Like, that's a lot of money. But I value having it done properly and looking good. So I am more than willing to pay that. Where someone else who has the skills has no problem going to a salon and just picking up the box of hair dye and, you know, doing it themselves. Totally different, you know, value propositions. So
think about other professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Think about other professionals. Think about somebody who comes in and fixes your pipes, a plumber or an accountant or whatever, right? Like, it's something that they know and they understand, and as a result, to them, it can be hard to get over charging other people for that thing, and they certainly wouldn't pay it themselves because they know, right? Somebody who is, you know, really, really good. Like, we talk about this with our level 2 Online Trainer Academy students, where we actually work with people on the second part of what I'm going to talk to you about a little bit later on in this episode, whereas charging more, because that's where we basically work with people to go to $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 for packages. And it's really hard for them to get over. And we basically look at them and we say, how much did you pay for this program? And it's 8 weeks long, right? And, you know, level 2 is $6,000. And it's an 8-week program. And you happily paid it because you know that you're going to get a lot more value than that. I mean, that's what we guarantee, basically. Like you're going to make at least your minimum investment back. And if you don't, we're going to keep working with you until you do. Right. And so you paid for that for a business program. Do you think a business major would pay for that? Do you think somebody who's an executive CEO would pay that much for a business development program? No, probably not, right? But they pay for a fitness program, that amount of money, because to them, that's their big need. That's their big gap that they can't fill themselves. That's the difference. It's just hard for us to put each other in the other one's kind of shoes.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, as you approach creating your pricing, just kind of keep that in mind, and know that even if you wouldn't be willing to pay for it, I can promise you that others are, and probably even more than you're initially asking, and you just have to get comfortable. And it's okay when you first get started to start off a little bit lighter of a price if it makes you feel comfortable, but I would challenge you to start off lighter for the first 2 clients, and then the next 2 go a little bit higher, and then the next 2 go a little bit higher to kind of build your confidence along the way. And that's okay to kind of do a ladder, version of that just to kind of get your confidence going. But try not to psych yourself out around money.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that process of becoming more comfortable, charging more kind of as you go. And people will say no, right? People will say no, and people will say that you're too expensive. But if you raise your price 50% and lose 25% of your people, you get to work with half as many people and make twice as much. Did I do that math right?
I'm not a math off the top of my head person, so we're just going to say yes.
We're just going to say yes. I know how to add in 45s. Okay? It's all that matters. 135, 225, 305, whatever. Okay? No big deal. Doesn't matter. The point here is, if when you do decide to raise your prices, people will say no and people will say you're too expensive. But if you do it properly and you do it with confidence, the best people will still stay on. They'll be even more committed, and you'll have more time to serve them better. If you price yourself too low, you can't offer a good enough service to people, which means that they don't get the kind of results. That's not a client-focused business. If you want to serve people that can't afford your services, the way to do that is to price yourself high to a smaller percentage of people, allowing yourself free time to be able to volunteer or build free materials for people who can't afford your services. That's not dissimilar from my model with the Personal Trainer Development Center, by the way. I mean, we spend millions of dollars a year on free materials. And our paid materials are worth many times more than what you would pay for them. But the reality of it is some people just aren't ready for them or can't afford them yet. That's fine. We still want to help you, right? That's still part of our business model. Okay. What should your package prices be? Where to start versus where you want to go? Let's talk about not getting ahead of yourself. Let's talk about not comparing your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 10. Okay, there's a lot of people out there who have their pricing set up. Don't copy them. You have no idea why they've set up their pricing that way. And you have no idea how long they've been doing this or what they've gone through to get to that point. Comparing yourself to them is going to lead to a ball of hurt. The most important thing when you're starting out, particularly, is to begin with the shortest path to get going. What I mean by that is, at the beginning when you're training people, or when you start to build programs online, it's pretty important to do things as similar as possible to what you're used to. A lot of us have worked in a gym before. We're used to selling sessions. We're used to selling monthly memberships. If that's what you're used to, it's not the best way to price online, but it's the fastest way for you to get started because it's the shortest learning curve. As a result, I recommend that you start selling months of coaching online. And you do this based off of how much time it's going to take you to deliver the services that you want to deliver. So reverse engineer, if you go back to our previous episode, Amber talked really, really brilliantly about reverse engineering what's in your packages. So go and listen to that episode if you want to know more about that. And reverse engineer what's in the package. Figure out how much time it's going to take you to deliver that service to a client each month. From there, you should know how much money you need to make each month. This is what I call my freedom number. It's, in one of the first chapters of the Online Trainer Academy. But if you Google Jonathan Goodman freedom number, you'll find an article on the PTDC about it. And what the freedom number is the amount of money that you need each month basically to survive, to meet your minimum expenses. Take care of your loved ones and pay your rent and eat and whatever. And so from there, you basically say, okay, well, if I need, to make $5,000 a month, and cool, I have 20 hours to make that $5,000 a month. Well, then you just do 5,000 divided by 20 is how much your hourly rate has to be in order for this business model to work. So then you reverse engineer your packages, not just on what you have to deliver to a client, but also how much you have to charge in order to make it work. And from there, you get an objective, realistic number, right, of how much your package price needs to be per client. You might look at that and say, I don't feel comfortable selling that. Well, that's fine. Because now you have a choice, right? Now you can say, well, I got to get comfortable selling this because this is my only option. Or you can say, I need to offer less. That's going to take less amount of time so that I can charge less. Whatever it is, that's fine. The reality of it is this is what's in front of you, right? Most people begin charging their months somewhere around $50 to $150 a month. That's generally too low for what most online trainers want to provide. I mean, if you think about charging $50 a month, and you're building a program and you're doing back and forth with a client, whatever it is, you're probably spending 4 or 5 hours with a client. You're making less than $10 an hour. I mean, that's not going to be enough to feed your family. So be realistic about this and figure out, what your model is. But then as time goes on, as Amber said, you begin to raise your prices as you get a few clients. So this is just a confidence thing. It's nothing more than that. It's very hard to sell if you're not confident that you're selling something that has the value that you're asking for. And the way to get the confidence is to sell it a few times. So once you get 2 clients, right? I think that's a great number. I think that's smart what Amber said. Once you get 2 clients, bump up your price $50. Once you get 2 clients, bump up your price $50. Then, once you've done that a few times, you're at, say, $250, $300 a month, right? At that point now, you want to switch over to selling packages. You want to switch over to selling results, not months. And the reason why I say don't do this at the beginning is simply because when you do that, it requires you to build out a package. And it requires you to kind of change how you're communicating something in a way that might be unfamiliar to you, which means there's a learning curve. So refer back to begin with the shortest path to do this thing, where you start versus where you want to go. Eventually, you want to get to the point where you're building packages, where you're selling a transformation, right? The best trainers, the most successful trainers, sell clients and help clients become the person that they want to become ultimately. They're not giving workouts. Right? The workouts might be a part of it. The workouts might not even be a part of it. The reality of it is you're giving a client what they need, how they need, when they need it in order to get to become the person that they want to become. And so you're selling a package that's going to be probably anywhere from 8, 12, 16 weeks. Some people do much longer. Like some people will do like a 9-month package. I think the ladies at Girls Gone Strong still do 9 months, right, with their coaching.
I think so.
But I mean, they have a brand with hundreds of thousands of followers that they've built over a decade, right? Which is why they're able to sell that. The same with precision nutrition. It's like, oh, well, they sell a year with like slow habit change. It's like, yeah, they have millions of people coming to their website every year. They've been around for 15 years, right? They spend tens of millions of dollars in advertising every year. Like that's why they're able to sell that, right? Little old you or little old me can't sell that. That's as simple as that. It's just, it requires a brand. It requires nurturing. It requires education of the customer before they become the customer in order to get them to buy into something before they do it. Commit to a year of coaching, right, up front. It's a huge commitment. So usually 8, 12, 16 weeks, there's going to be a package. And then you work with the same thing. What I recommend to people is actually start at the same monthly cost. So if your package is 2 months and you're charging $300 a month, then you charge $600 for the package. Sell it to 2 people. Next, you charge $700 for the package. Sell it to somebody. Then $750, sell it to somebody. Then $800, sell it to somebody. Then $900, sell it to somebody. Then $1,000, then sell it to somebody. And this is the process as you slowly work your way up to the number that you want to be at, which is, say $1,000 to $2,000 a package, knowing that you're going to be able to provide an exceptional service to the person. So this is the process, right? And it takes some time.
One thing I would add is over time, especially when we're first starting, we're guessing, and that's okay. Like you may not know how long it's going to take you to deliver a particular service. And I find that for most coaches, we will crawl, through the mud, broken glass shards in our back, like for our clients. Like we just can't seem to help ourselves, right? And so chances are you're going to over deliver. And so, account for that. Like if you're that type of person, like I always add a little bit of buffer time because I know I can't help myself. But it's also really important to track the time that you're spending with clients if you can, like if you have the mental capacity to like deal with that, like tracking the clients or the time that you're spending with clients to match, to make sure that you're spending the amount of time that you think you are. Because the last thing you want is like you think you're making $50 an hour, but you're actually making $7.50 an hour because you can't help yourself by over, delivering, over communicating or whatever it may be. And if you are, that's okay, but then that means you need to make a choice. Either you need to cut back on what you're doing or you need to up your prices. So it's not a bad thing, but it's something you need to know either way. And I had one more point I wanted to make too. Oh, and raise your freaking prices, people. Like, it drives me nuts. Like I talked to some of our students, like, yeah, I've been charging this for like the last 3 years. I'm like, oh my God, no. Like, as you get better at what you do, as you get more education, because I know every single one of you are certification junkies. Like, I know you're getting more educated, you're getting better at your job, your cost of living is going up, you're investing into your business. That means you need to raise your prices. So if you have not raised your prices in the last year, like you need to look at that and make sure that your pricing still makes sense for what you're delivering. All right, I'm off my soapbox now.
Picture perfect pricing principles.
Say that 10 times fast.
How? Yeah, thank you for listening to another episode of the Online Trainer Show. Please join us at onlinetrainer.com/academy in the Online Trainer Academy. We'd love to work with you. If you're on the fence, get the heck off already. That's all I got to say. Bye-bye.